Ducks. Oh, I got gloves on, so I can't control the camera. Sorry guys, I totally shared the ducks with you. They just flew over there where our geese flew last time. But hey, welcome back to another episode here on the Matt Listowey Show. Another episode. It just feels wrong when I say it, another episode. It's got another walk with Matt. Here we go. It is Tuesday. I think these typically get to you guys on Wednesday just because of the amount of time it takes to get it from the phone to the computer to the editing software, blah, 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 blah. A bunch of stuff you guys don't really care about. But just so you know, these are typically recorded on Tuesday. That's the intent. Eventually, the process will get to the point where you'll be getting them Tuesday. Eventually, once we get our subscriber numbers up to 1,000, we'll be able to go live here. And so that way, every Tuesday when I do this, we'll be doing this live together. But YouTube won't allow you to do that until you hit 1,000 subscribers. So until then, these will be how they're coming, as they have been. So what are we talking about? So you can see today I am dressed a little bit more fancy, and if you really wanted to know how fancy I am, I've got my fancy shoes on. So and you might say, on a walk with Matt here out in the woods around Indiana, why would you be wearing your fancy pants? Well, before we get to the reason behind wearing these, I wanted to touch back on something that I had discussed on a full production episode again. One of the shows that I did that was a full production in the studio. This was back in Virginia, where I talked about kind of like the 4 key elements to a well-lived life, or the 4 key elements to fulfillment, that kind of a thing. In case you guys were curious, obviously you can tell it is a little bit chilly. I've got the hat on, I've got the scarf with the nice heavy jacket. It is, it's cold outside. That's frozen water right there. And I don't think, there's only parts of the lake's pretty big, so it hasn't frozen everywhere. But yeah, no, not over there. You see there's some water, some part of the lake. But, and you see, we talked about previously ripples, in the ripple effect episode. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a nice big fatty ripple coming our way. It's something I get to think about and see and play with on the regular. So anyway, so what are the 4 key elements? They are loving, learning, struggling, and achieving. And so these, I think, are things that if you incorporate each one of those into your life on a daily basis, you find a way to integrate them in some way, shape, or form each day, then you will have a much more fulfilling daily life, which will lead to a much more fulfilling long-term life. And the reason why I'm dressed up and all fancy is because I was embracing a couple of these today, a couple of these tenets, these principles, these foundational concepts behind a well-lived life. And what happened was I wanted to dress my best and to look my best and to feel my best, because I think that those actually go hand in hand. When you get all dressed up and all done up and you look great, it makes you feel great. There's a certain boost, there's a confidence boost, and that you have when you are looking good, and which makes you feel good. And then that in turn reflects itself in the way that you communicate, the way that you perform, the way that you interact and engage with the world. And I'm gonna see if I can get this set up now. Back at our normal spot here. Little background. Little Green Lake background. But essentially, what why did I want to be feeling my best? Well, obviously we want to feel our best every day, but like I've got the whole like 3-piece suit going on, the vest, the nice jacket and everything. And like you saw my fancy shoes. So, but why today? Why do this specifically for today? Well, I had the opportunity. I've been playing around with some employment opportunities outside of the stuff that I'm normally doing. Like I've told you guys in the past, I work part-time in a kind of a sales and business development and demand generation role with a software company that's, I don't know if I've gotten to this level of detail, but that's out in London, and it's been great, but I'm looking to expand my experience and my horizon outside of that. I knew that was a crucial thing. Again, this all goes back to the tenets and the principles of that well-lived life. And what I wanted to do with that is for the business, for what we're doing here, what I've come to understand is that in any line of work, in any line of business, if you're trying to start your own thing, there's a certain percentage that is, you have to do what it is that you're doing, right? You have to provide the service you're providing. You have to make the product, you have to produce the product that you are selling. Like that has to happen, right? You can't have a business without, the function of the business. But once that's the case, you have to be able to let people know about that product and service, and you have to entice people to portray it in a way that it lets people know the value that they'll be getting and why they should buy your product versus somebody else, but utilize your service versus utilizing somebody else's service who might be doing something similar. Your kind of unique value proposition is kind of what it's termed in the field. So I knew that it was really important to understand sales and that. And so transitioning from the military, where you don't have to worry about anything that you have to do in the civilian job, you're paid to perform a task and a function and to complete the mission. And that's it, right? And so you do that mission. But that mission doesn't have anything to do with supply and demand and providing something of value for people. It's the value you're providing is in completing the mission of the military for the proper defense of the nation. So I did that, but it doesn't provide a lot. I guess it doesn't provide a lot of aid or assistance in specifically selling and marketing, myself and my services on the outside. So I wanted to take that job. Well, I've done that for a while now, and I'm ready to move on into another role to gain some more experience. So I had I applied for a couple of jobs, and I got calls back. I went through Indeed, who's not affiliated with this show whatsoever, just letting you guys know what really happened. So I went through Indeed. I had built some resumes, and I kind of rejiggered them specifically for the different fields that I was applying for, because I applied for some things that were like other marketing jobs, that because was more in a sales role, but I wanted to do, if I can get into marketing and brand awareness and work on that, then I think that would be something that would be very valuable as well, and something that I haven't had that kind of professional focus on before. And then I applied for other jobs that were kind of more in the health, wellness, and behavioral side of things. And so I applied for them, and I got responses back from 2 different places for interviews, both today. Now, thankfully, the time said it was crunch. It was very difficult to maneuver all these together, because I got one that was for a digital interview that was for a marketing position, and then one for it's really like an event coordinator / marketing, and then another one that was in person, that was at an addiction rehabilitation center and facility. And so and that was in person, but that's an hour away. And these interviews were 1 hour and 15 minutes apart from the start time of each, right? So what I did is I looked on the map, and I found a coffee shop that was close to the place, because the digital interview, virtual interview was first, and then the in-person interview was second. So I was like, all right, let me find a coffee shop that's close to the second interview spot. And I did. I found one. I checked the hours. It was good. I went there, and it was empty, which was wonderful. So I was able to go there. I chatted up with the guy who was working, and he was totally cool with me doing the whole interview there. And that was really awesome. And then I was able to shift and make it in on time to the next one. And so what does applying for jobs and getting all dressed up for them, what does that have to do with the principles of the well-lived life, the fundamentals of living a well-lived life. Well, what were they again, right? What they were, you gotta engage in love, right? You have to learn something. You've got to struggle, and you've got to achieve, right? And so you can do all of these, and some days you're going to have heavier focuses on some of them, and some days you're going to have heavier focuses on other things. But as long as you are kind of tapping into all of them in some way, shape, or form, where there's a little bit of balance, even if it's heavily focused on a couple, it really makes a huge difference, especially if you continue to do this. Then it really helps to refine your focus on what you're doing. And they kind of all flow together. If you think about it, like if you want to engage with something that you love, if you go kind of beyond relationships, which is great, I'm not discounting those. If you embrace like your children or your spouse or your parents or your friends and family with love, and like you reach out to them and you let them know, or you communicate, in that way that reflects a loving relationship, that's great. That absolutely works for that category. But for me today, it was about embracing the professional love, right? The things that I want to pursue professionally, and things I want to pursue professionally aren't solely financially or monetarily based. It's on my passions, things that drive me, things that I love, and I love to help people. It's what we're doing here. I want to make people's lives better if I can do that in any way. And so that was, I wanted, and this is all in pursuit of making myself better, giving myself more real life experience with other people who are trying to do the same thing. And so I wanted to embrace that, my love of this. And so that was me taking action for that. And then you have learning, right? So in order to do well in these performances today, in these interviews, I needed to spend time kind of reviewing myself, like doing self-assessments and really fine-tuning. Today wasn't so much focused on the learning. I learned about the organizations, which mattered, but it was about taking what I have learned about myself in the past and running through it in my head enough times so that there was, I think I hear a woodpecker. Sorry, that's why I paused. It's the beautiful thing about nature, man. If I'm going to get interrupted by something, it's way better to get interrupted by a woodpecker than it is by some stranger you don't know. So I love it. I love it. I hope you guys love it too. But so I'm taking the stuff that I know about myself, that I've learned about myself, and really working through a crisp and clear kind of elevator pitch, right? Because the first thing that they always say is like, oh, okay, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. And you have to do this in the context of the fact that you've given them a resume, right? And so they already know kind of like your professional history. So just running down your list of professional stuff is a rehash and doesn't really give them a lot more than they already had. So you kind of got to like breathe life into it. And so it's like, that was kind of the work. That was the achievement, was having that prepared and ready. But the struggle was the whole process of getting there, of organizing those thoughts in a way that was cohesive and made sense to actually communicate that with somebody else, and then actually going through with the interviews. And I'll tell you what, there were many opportunities and many reasons why I could have called each one of these off. My wife and I had discussed it, and we're like, I don't know if either of these opportunities really makes sense, and it's cool, and so I told her yesterday, or maybe even the day before, I was like, I've got these interviews lined up, and I'm viewing it not so much as like, oh, I want either of these jobs super bad. It was more like, this is a good kind of just practice and run through routine of going through this interview process, and I get to learn more about myself and how I'm acting and where I'm at with my level of communication, even about just selling myself. And so I got a chance to practice that today, and to learn more about me again. And so all of this, all kind of, like I said, these things cycle together, but they don't cycle together if you don't put yourself in a position to actually do that. And the beautiful part is, both of these interviews went extraordinarily well. And I had that feeling that you have before you go into something stressful that you care about. And it's, for me, like I said, I didn't even particularly like have any stake or skin in the game for these interviews. It was more like, I want to present the best version of myself that is accurate, you know, and I made sure I was blatantly honest about my shortcomings when it comes to those specific roles and all of that. And so, I mean, I was able to do that because of the confidence of my situation. And you know, that's a benefit of also kind of, if you were to take on interviews on a more regular basis, you go through this whole rigmarole, this psychological process of getting stressed, like preparing for the interview, looking up questions for interview questions and preparing yourself for that, not just winging it, understanding yourself, understanding your history, going through your resumes, making sure everything's squared away, then getting ready for the day, you know, getting yourself made up and all looking all nice, and then going out and actually going through like that stress that, you know, people might have before they get up and do public speaking. You know, for like, this is not public speaking, but this is one-on-one. This is very intimate engagement. These were both one-on-one interviews, and so this is very intimate discussion. And so I you know, I had stress. Yes, even me, the guy who's up in front of the camera like all the time with you guys, and talks about stress management and, you know, and performance and how to increase performance. Even, yeah, I got stressed, like, and I could feel the anxiety. And one of the things that I kept reminding myself was like, this isn't anxiety, this is excitement. This isn't nervousness, this is excitement. You're excited. And as long as I kind of kept that mantra worked for me in this instance. It doesn't work for me in all instances when I feel it, but in this instance and many of them, that's helpful, because that's true. Like, I'm getting those feelings, but those feelings, like, it's how do I assign them? How am I choosing to assign them? Realizing that you have the choice to assign them how you please. It pleased me, and it behooved me, and it benefited me to view them in a way that was excitement, and not like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, oh, I hope I do well. I was like, no, this is exciting. I get to go like run through these opportunities. And even if I don't take either of the positions, which I believe they will both be offered, I actually believe that while I was recording, I got a request for another interview for one of them. So I made the cutoff for the next list, which is great. That's super cool. And I'm totally going to do that because it's going to make me nervous too. Even if I don't end up taking the position, it's like these chances to you know, go through these emotions, because the less you feel nervous about things, the more difficult time you're going to have dealing with that feeling when other times come up that are not out of your control, that are out of your control. Because these ones for me were completely within my control. I had the ability to reach. I chose to reach out. I chose to prepare. I chose to say yes to the interview. I chose to actually show up to the interview, and so all of the, and I didn't need to. Right? I have a job. I have the backing. I have the security. It's not necessary. But if nothing else, like, I feel like this is something I want to do all the time on a regular basis, just to keep me going, keep testing myself on that level, and it'll keep refining me too, to the point where I'm sure the nerves, like, while I'm there, it's crazy, because I didn't even feel nervous while I was in it. It was all the build up to it. And when I was actually in there, there were no nerves. It was just communicating and just talking. And so, and like I said, they both seem to go very well. And I think that that's really important, that we go through these iterations of choosing discomfort, right? Choosing those kind of stressful moments to push ourselves through. Because when those times come up, when we don't have the choice, we will be much more familiar with what's happening in our body, how to manipulate and control it, and we will be able to perform much better in those situations, right? So that's my hope for you guys, that you don't have to go apply for a bunch of jobs and go through interviews today. A lot of people probably don't have the time to like just choose to do that. I'm blessed enough to have that opportunity. And, but you can choose something that's going to put you out of your comfort zone, and keep just doing little things to put yourself out of your comfort zone, because what that does is it actually takes your comfort zone from here and it brings it out, and it just makes your comfort zone more locked in, but also like bigger. And so that way there are more things within it. You can do more things within your comfort zone, which makes you even more lethal. As I go back to like my military, like, verbiage, but yeah, you get more lethal, you get more marketable, you get more confident. And that's when it comes to, finding, someone that you want to spend time with, like emotionally and intimately, you know, like when you're pursuing a relationship, it helps there. If you're pursuing a new job, it helps there. If you're pursuing a promotion within the job, that helps there. Like all of these things, all of the things in your life, like that you don't do often, that push you out of your comfort zone, you can prepare for those. You can take actions that will help you to be ready for those when they come up. I hope this is helpful. Thank you guys so much for coming back. I love seeing you here every week, and I will see you later this week for another full production episode here on Real Resilience with Matt LaStalia. Thanks, guys. Bye.